there over the last couple of days. Where are you going? Where are you going? Truly, until today, we didn't know for sure where we were going. This afternoon, I received a call from Randy Levine. I hope I'm saying that right. He's the president of the Yankees. Mark Holtzman, who's the executive director of the Bowl, and they invited us to join them against Boston College. Of course, we said yes, gladly. And a couple of thoughts. First of all, to our players, I never want to take for granted the opportunity to stand at this podium this time of year and have another chance to play another football game. So I'm happy for our players, happy for our coaches and our staff, and everybody, our fans. One of the things that, whether I was talking to the Holiday Bowl, the Pinstripe Bowl, or the Nashville Bowl, whoever I was talking to, they talked about our fans and Kinnick Stadium and the Wave and all the great storylines that they bring to the table. So never take for granted the opportunity to go to a bowl. New York City, I don't know if many of our fans have been there during the holidays. It's amazing with the Rockefeller Center, the 9/11 Museum, and a chance to reflect back on that. Et cetera, et cetera. It's just a great place to be, so we're looking forward to it. What I think I'll do is I'll answer any questions you have, and then we'll have Kirk come up and talk about it from a team perspective. So if anybody has any questions about the selection, about the bowl process, I'd be happy to answer that. And if not, or when that's done, I'll have Kirk come up.
You said last week you heard clearly from your fan base that they wanted to go to Nashville. I know there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and I know that it's you can't really deliver on promises like that. But do you feel like it was a missed opportunity for that to please your fan base like that?
Well, there certainly were fans who shared with us that it'd be easy for them to drive from Iowa to Nashville. There are fans who live out in the East Coast who are telling me they're thrilled we're coming out there. At the end of the day, hopefully our fans know, it's not a selection process by the university to the bowls. We provide all the information to the bowls, and we have a great bowl lineup. The Big Ten, in my opinion, has the best bowl lineup of all the conferences in the country. I've spent the last 2 weeks making sure all of the bowls with whom we were likely to be associated had all the information about the number of alums we have in that area, our TV ratings, making sure they had all the data. And I gave all that data to them. At the end of the day, again, just being reminded that the university doesn't choose which bowl. They're gracious to accept whatever bowl we're invited to.
You said before, you made that preference known to the Big Ten, that's what your fans wanted to do. I know there was a lot of discussion early in this process, a couple of years ago when this whole thing was changed, that the league would be more in charge of the process, but this seems to not be the case at all, where the bowls are still selecting just like they did before.
They are, and the league being in charge is really about the Big Ten talking about principles, not going to the same bowl twice, having bowls from the East Coast to the West Coast to the South. So the Big Ten being in charge was really meant to be more of a principle setting process, and then letting the bowls select going from there. And that's really how it's unfolded. They still select, they just have principles that are a little bit different than they were before we had the new bowl lineup.
Okay.
How much push, if at all, was there, Iowa versus Northwestern? Obviously that's what Music City went with, but was there any discussions there regarding whether you guys could get picked over them?
Again, what I did with every bowl, I'm a little biased in that discussion, and so I talked about Iowa versus Northwestern. I talked about the fact that they beat us in overtime, but we had the wins that we had, and also our fan base, our television ratings, and I shared all of that with the bowl in Nashville, as well as Holiday Bowl, as well as New York. So my job is to make sure the bowl executives and their TV sponsors and their boards of directors have all the information about when they select Iowa, what they're going to be getting. And that goes back to a credit to Kirk and the reputation that he and our team have, as well as the reputation of our fans. After that, then it's just up to them to make their decision.
When you spoke with the Yankees, what was the number one factor for them, whether it was fans or the Wave, what was the number one thing for them in selecting Iowa?
All of the above. You brought up a good point. There's several storylines as you head into this season. I shared with them that if Kirk wins the bowl game at their place, he'll become tied with Hayden Fry as the all-time winningest coach in Hawkeye football history. The Wave has become just a feel-good story about what the state of Iowa is all about. I think it's been well documented, and I think that's something of a lure. And then we've been out to Madison Square Garden over the last several years when we've played the NIT and the national championships for wrestling. And then most recently when Maryland and Rutgers were added to the Big Ten, that corridor push, there's hundreds of thousands of Big Ten alums in that area, as well as close to 20,000 Hawkeye alums living in the area. So I think it was a combination of all those things. That combined with TV ratings, the fact that our fans travel in big numbers to bowl games.
Do you expect the travel numbers to be similar this year going to New York? And just talking to players, Nathan Budget says his family's going to drive out, so save a little money. Do you think your fans will back up what Iowa has been?
I think the answer is yes. It's hard to predict what the numbers are going to be. One of the things, I think the last 2 years, the attendance at this bowl, at the Pinstripe Bowl, has been around 37,000. And if you combine Iowa's history, the local fans that will go out to New York, as well as the East Coast Iowans, whether they're alums, fans, or just grew up in the state of Iowa, as well as Big Ten fans who live out in the Eastern Corridor, I'm confident that the attendance can hit that number or higher. I don't know much about Boston College and what kind of fan base might follow them there, but clearly it's nearby. So,
do you have an idea how many you bring up East Coast Iowa fans? Do you have any idea what number you're talking about of people?
Well, as I mentioned, we have about 20,000 alums that live in that corridor within a few-hour drive of Yankee Stadium, and so that's the only number I can give. We also know there's tens of thousands of Iowans who live out in that corridor. I just don't have a number for it.